All right, well, hi everyone. Welcome back to Let's Talk About It with Jacque and Megan. Today we are again in person doing a recording, and we wanted to talk about Jackie's experience visiting the shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico City.
Yeah.
So I think it would be good to start with maybe just briefly going over the story of the specific Marian apparition for people who are very unfamiliar or maybe Protestant like I am and just don't have much exposure to that.
Yes.
We did have a full episode. It was one of our very first YouTube videos. Jackie had COVID. So it's not super high quality, but we did go way more into detail on the story. We talked about a seminar we went to about it. So if you are interested, that would be a great watch or listen. We're not going to go into as much detail this time, but for those who are unfamiliar, can you give us a brief explanation, overview?
Yes. So Our Lady of Guadalupe is one of the many approved Marian apparitions in the Catholic Church, which means it's worthy of belief, declared by the local bishop there. So you can have a devotion to it, you can visit. And we've actually done 2 other episodes about me visiting an apparition. I'm making my rounds. Our Lady of Lourdes in France, Our Lady of Knock in Ireland. And then I visited some others. Oh, Miraculous Medal in Paris. We talked about that one too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to 5 so far.
That was a part of our episode on incorruptible bodies.
Yes, because there's one allegedly there. Yes. So Our Lady of Guadalupe is definitely in the Americas, I would say, by far the most popular Marian apparition because it happened in the Americas. It happened in Mexico City, what now Mexico City. The apparition happened in 1531, where Our Lady appeared to Juan Diego, just a lowly kind of farmer, native to that area, Indian, I guess you could use that term. And she appeared to him and asked him to please go to the local bishop and ask him to build a church. And he was very nervous to do so. He went and asked the bishop to build a church on Tepeyac Hill. I'm not saying that perfectly right, but that's where she asked him to build a church. The bishop.
What was significant about that area?
That area. So at the time, this was when the Spanish were coming and really colonizing that area. So the Spanish were trying to bring a Catholic influence, which not in a great way. Most scholars that look at this were it was not being done. They were trying to force it upon the natives there, and using a lot of brute force, which is how a lot of colonizers did that back in the day. But they were trying to bring Catholicism, even if it wasn't an authentic version of it. But there were some authentic Catholics there that were trying to evangelize because it was largely Aztecs there. And they were, while I want to be respectful about a lot of parts of their culture, they did do a lot of infant and human sacrifice. So they did a lot of things that most people we can agree now is not okay. And harmful to their community, yes. So he had converted to Catholicism. So Juan Diego was a Catholic, and Our Lady asked him, please go and ask the bishop, who also was Catholic, obviously, to build a church here, and it would help to evangelize the people in the area. And so he went, and the bishop, of course, didn't believe him. Honestly, I don't blame him for not believing him because
quite the
kind of wild. And the bishop actually, which I didn't know, I read more about it, was a decent man. Good man. Okay, good. He was not one of the, at least of what I've read, one of the murdering Spanish colonizers that came. And he did not believe him. So Juan Diego left, and then Mary appeared to him again and was like, hey, just trust me. Go over to this hill. And that's significant because at the time there should have been no roses growing. And he said, gather up these roses, put it in your tilma, and then go back. And Juan Diego was like, okay, I don't think he's going to believe me. And his uncle had gotten really sick, so he aborted his mission to go to the bishop again with his roses in his tilma, and was actually on his way to go see his uncle. And Our Lady appeared to him again and said, hey, don't worry about it. I'm going to heal your uncle, and go to the bishop. So he goes back to the bishop, and this is where the climax of the story is. He opens his tilma, the roses fall out, and on the tilma is a miraculous image of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And then the bishop is like, oh my gosh, and believes him, and then they build the church, and that is what is now the shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Yes.
And that is
short version.
In the shrine, correct?
Yes. Yes. It is at the shrine. I have a picture of it. We can insert. I have the actual image. So, yeah. And there's been a lot of studies done on it, and it is not corrupted or disintegrated at all. And it's believed that when they try to study it, they can't really figure out, like, it's like the ink or the paint. It's not either on the tilma is like microscopically hovering above it. Because obviously as Catholics, we believe it is miraculously there. And there's been a lot of studies done on the tilma. When I wanted to like get up close, maybe take it home.
Sure, yeah.
But they didn't let me, and I didn't ask, but you know, would have been nice.
It's probably like the airport, like customs, you know, just very difficult.
Yes, but it's there. So that's where you can see the image. It doesn't leave there. It stays in Mexico. So.
Okay, so obviously we've done other episodes where you visited, you know, sites of Marian apparitions.
Yeah.
But for this site specifically, what really motivated you to visit this shrine?
Yes. So I don't really know what it was. I think I've talked about how I grew in Marian devotion in my process of my reversion back to practicing my Catholic faith, and how I very strongly feel her presence. So I had this Marian devotion. I was kind of equally loved all of the Marian apparitions for a couple of years. And then I don't know what it was that really, something about Our Lady's message to Juan Diego, which is an iteration of like, do not fear, why do you worry, I am here, your mother, is what she says to him. And something about that just really resonated. I can't really explain it. I've always loved Our Lady of Guadalupe. I think it is significant that she is our mother of the Americas. That's another one of her titles. So not just Mexico, but all of America. And she also is our patron for the pro-life, because she's thought to be pregnant with Jesus in the image. So I think that's another reason she's significant to me. But I honestly, it's hard for me to explain why. I have a very big devotion to her. I feel very drawn to her. So I've always wanted to go to the apparition site. That was my number one, even though I had visited others before. It just worked out that I was able to visit the others before. I had to find someone who wanted to go to Mexico City with me, because I didn't feel comfortable just going on my own. And I didn't find a pilgrimage with a bunch of people going that I felt like was like cost effective and not overpriced. So I waited until I had the right time and someone that wanted to go with me. And I also just really am drawn, I think because of her, honestly, very drawn to Mexican culture. I'm very touched by how devoted they are to her. And so that just all kind of wrapped me in, where I was like, I really want to go to Mexico. I want to see the shrine, and just as a whole experience the culture and her and the country. Yeah,
I feel like it is unique how significant it is for their culture, because I feel like even as a Protestant, before I was friends with you or familiar with like what those images were, I had seen the image. I mean, it's everywhere. You go to any like Mexican establishment, it's going to be there. Anyone's home, it's displayed in some way.
Yes.
And I just always assumed like, oh, it's just like everyone's favorite image of Mary. So it wasn't until that I learned that. But I don't feel like it's the same for like, you don't see like Our Lady of Lourdes in like French homes as much, maybe, but
I personally,
my experience,
I have never seen a culture embrace an apparition like the Mexican people have embraced Our Lady of Guadalupe, which we'll get into later more of when I visited the shrine. There's also a large shrine in Chicago, not in Chicago, like 30 minutes, maybe even 20 minutes drive out of side of Chicago in Des Plaines, Illinois, which, oh my gosh, yeah, the people flock there too. I've never seen a culture. It's something I don't even know what it is, like what... why it is that way in the Mexican culture and not other cultures where she's appeared, but it is something to behold. Yeah.
What was like your first impression when you visited the shrine and you arrived there? Like, what stood out to you? What can you remember as being like, wow, that really stuck with me?
It stuck with me. So I went on my trip there. I went on 2 different days. On a weekday, and on a Sunday. And it was certainly more crowded on a Sunday, which makes sense because a lot of people would go to Mass or do their daily obligation on a Sunday. And it's just a weekend, so maybe more people are able to visit on a weekend. And I was struck at how they have a Mass every single hour. So they have 2 basilicas.
Oh, wow.
They have the original basilica where they believe the apparition happened, and they had the tilma there, but that started sinking. And it actually is open, that church, but you can see it. Actually, in the pictures I took, it is tilted. You can clearly see it when you're walking out. You're like, why do I feel like, oh, because it's tilted. I'm walking down. So you can still go in. Yeah. It's actually open right now. So we went to Mass there. But there's Mass there, I think, like 3 or 4 times a day, and that one, and it's a lot less crowded. And it is just more of a traditional looking church. Like, it's prettier if you like more cathedral looking churches, because they had to build a new basilica, obviously, because that one was sinking. And they also needed a bigger one because so many people come. And what struck me was in the new basilica, they have Mass every day, every single hour, and it is packed every single Mass, and it's huge. It fits hundreds of people, if not 1,000 people. I don't even know. I'm not good at estimating the amount of people I'm around, but it is packed, Mass after Mass after Mass every hour. So that was something I had not seen. Our Lady of Knock was very small, not very crowded. It was very different than Our Lady of Lourdes, but Our Lady of Lourdes did not have that like hourly Mass thing. It was constantly crowded, but it didn't have that. So it was just interesting to see that many people at Mass, and not just people coming to like see the shrine and leave. Yeah. And it just how crowded it was. I wasn't that shocked because I've been to Our Lady of Lourdes, which is super crowded, and just knowing how much people love Our Lady of Guadalupe, I knew it would be. But I for some reason, I was still shocked how crowded every single Mass was. Something else that shocked me was, not shocked me, I guess, but I had been told before, but it is kind of funny. The image, there's an escalator that runs below it that you get on. Oh. Because if not, the thousands of people would just flock and stand there and look at it. Right. Which, that was not an issue. Like Our Lady of Lourdes, I felt like where the miraculous apparition happened, like it was actually pretty easy, unless there was a Mass going on or something, to like get up there and get right at the grotto. There could be a long line, but I felt like the fact that there had to be an escalator and it still would get massively crowded. You had to get on, and then you couldn't just like run around and get back on because they knew people would do that. You had to like go out, come all the way around, get back in line, and then look up at it. So it was kind of a bummer how far away it was, but I know that's for safety reasons, and it has like the Mexican flag under it. But that was interesting. I was warned about it before, but if I had just shown up, like, oh, this is really interesting. Like, you have to stand on this like moving, I guess it's not an escalator. It's like flat, so it's not, but it's just moving.
It's like those ones in the airport.
Yes, it's like the ones in the airport that you get on, and
the moving walkway.
So that's pretty much what it is. It's a moving walkway, and you just stand and look, and
And what was your like response or reaction or like feelings when like you first saw it? Because obviously you've seen copies of the image frequently, and this was something that was like really important to you. But seeing the original one.
Yeah. It was meaningful. I didn't have like a crazy emotional reaction because I think I was
distracted by the walkway.
I was, but I also was a little disappointed of just how far away it was. I'm someone that I like to like get up and just like touch it, or like, and I couldn't do that, and I couldn't just stand there and
really, kind of like soak it in.
Yeah, right in front of it, and I was a little disappointing. Yeah, I guess it was really amazing to see it. I went back and as many times as I could the 2 days that I was there. But I felt like I had just overall meaningful time being able to be at the shrine. Yeah. And honestly, seeing so many people there so devoted to her, like people were walking on their knees up to where the image was. I was making a joke with my friend Bridget. I was like, no one here has as much devotion to her as me. Like joking, but then we look over and there's like people walking up on their knees. And okay, maybe. Or I brought home a giant statue of her. It's like this tall from Mexico City, and I was joking about like, obviously I got this big statue, and then I saw someone walking out with, I'm not kidding, it was like as big as them. I was like, okay, once again.
A lot of one-upping.
Yeah, way to one-up me. But yeah, it's beautiful. It's really big. It's in the middle of Mexico City. So it's very different. Lourdes is like its whole own town. Like everything, Lourdes. It's literally the name of the town. This shrine, it is smaller because it's in the middle of a city, but it's still quite large for being in the middle of a bustling city. There's several different churches, different buildings. You could spend a whole day there definitely just to like go around and soak everything in. I just kept walking back and I'm like, oh, another church, another church, another church. And they're all beautiful. So it's kind of crazy. Yeah. So.
I remember in our episode about Our Lady of Lourdes, you talked about like how seeing like people going there for healing and everything was very like significant to you, and it really deepened your faith and affected you spiritually. What was your experience spiritually visiting this shrine? Like how did this deepen your faith or affect your faith, or did it?
Yes. I think I said earlier, and I did talk about this in our other episode on this, but I do think a reason the Mexican people have embraced it so much is because her apparitions like changed the entirety of the culture. There were 8 million conversions to Catholicism from the Aztecs, and it just like fundamentally changed the entire, what became the Mexican culture, what became the Mexican people. And I think something that is so significant to the Mexican people is she appeared as a woman. So she has lighter skin. She doesn't have the typical like very dark skin. You might see like the darkest looking Mexican. She doesn't have that really dark skin. She has a lighter, she's not white, but it is lighter skin. It's because it was meant to be an image of someone that is both a mix of the natives there at the time and the Spanish. And at the time when those two people would create a child, they were looked down upon like as lesser than, especially by the Spanish, because they were mixed with the blood of the people there. So she appeared as that, which now is like a representation of all Mexican people that are a mix of the native and Spanish. And I think it's beautiful to see how significant it is to them specifically, because Juan Diego was just this little insignificant poor farmer, and she often does this where she appears to people that are very lowly in society and has them go and deliver her messages, or like gives them the gift of seeing her. And it was the same in Lourdes. It was the same pretty much every single apparition. And I think that always touches me, and I think it touches me to watch how much it affects the Mexican people. They just how much they embrace like what a gift it is that she came there, and what that says to them about how God does see them and love them. And I think that even though I am not Mexican, that message, like, it just shows that God is with all people, even those that the world looks down upon. And I think that's really beautiful. And I think anytime I'm surrounded by a lot of people that love her, and it usually is Mexican people, I'm usually one of the only non-Mexican people there. I don't know, that just really touches me, and just how much devotion they have to her. Seeing that always deepens my faith, and just hearing their stories about how much it touches them. And a lot of them always talk about miracles they felt, or how it's drawn them closer to Jesus. And I don't know, yeah, it always deepens my faith when I see other people they sacrifice a lot usually to come to the shrine, and they like, I want to come and say thank you. And they travel so far. A lot of them, it's like grueling traveling, and they will come on their knees, and it's like, wow, it's like really beautiful devotion. And it always inspires me. I was able to visit the shrine in Des Plaines, Illinois, like 3 days ago. It was on December 12th. Well, actually, we did a walk. A lot of people do pilgrimages for hours, and it was horribly cold. It was like below zero with the wind chill, and like universities and institutions were telling people, stay inside, this is dangerous. And we did a walk, but we were only really outside walking for like 2.5 hours maybe, which was horrible. I was really layered up though, but people walked hours and hours and hours, and people stood out there for hours. And I knew it was, I think 300,000 people altogether within the span of those like 2 days visited the shrine. And that's just the one in Illinois, not the one in the original one in Mexico City. And being there, I mean, I don't know. I was like, this is insane how all of these people have come out. I don't know. I still like, am still processing how incredible that was. How many people showed up to visit her at that shrine and how bitterly cold it was. And I had to tap out. Like, all of us were like, we got to go. Our ride is here. I was like, even if my ride wasn't here, I would have to leave. I am dying. And there were people that stayed out there for hours and lined up. The line was insane to go up and just go around the grotto. And that's not even the original apparition site. Yeah. I don't know. I'm honestly, that was I'm still processing that experience. That was so crazy to me. And like I said, I've not seen any other culture have a devotion like that. It's incredible to me.
And that was because December 12th was her feast day?
Yes. December 12th is when we celebrate her. That's the date that, I don't know if that was the specific date that she actually appeared to the bishop on the tilma. I'm not a history scholar. I think maybe it's close enough in time they can date it back to that day, but that's when we celebrate it. So yeah, I think there are also a lot of meaning in the way that she appeared, which I'll link below to a book I read before I went to Mexico City, that like every single part of her image has some kind of meaning that would be relevant to the people she was appearing to, even down to like the flowers that appeared on her tilma. I don't know. It's just really cool. I've also never seen so much significance or imagery in an image of Mary. I mean, and that's actually the only one we have where it's like we believe it's an actual image of her. No other apparition has that, I guess. So it's a very unique one.
Because typically it's like a statue that's created afterwards.
Yeah, it's a statue that's created. No other apparition has an actual image that we believe was miraculously given to the people. That's the only one. So that could also be a reason it's been embraced so much, is like having that image.
Uniqueness in that way.
Yeah. I don't know. It's very interesting. Yeah. It was very special, and I definitely want to go back. I would recommend, a lot of people visit the shrine in Mexico City, even if they're not Catholic, because like I did a tour. The first time we got to go, we're like, let's go with a tour group so that we can be brought to the shrine by a tour group and then kind of know our way around before we come by ourselves. And it was a part of a totally non-religious tour. Like the tours brought us to the Aztec pyramids that are right outside of Mexico City, some of the Aztec ruins, just like, it was kind of just an experience of Mexico City. And the last stop was just Our Lady of Guadalupe, because that is so central to the Mexican experience, which any European country that is not going to be a part of their, maybe the churches would be, but like a Marian Apparition Day is not going to be a part of their tour. But like Our Lady of Guadalupe is very significant to the Mexican people, even if they don't identify as Catholic, which is interesting. It's like almost just seen as like, it's there, you should go see it.
Like a symbol of their culture almost.
Yes, definitely. Which I hope eventually leads them to being Christian, but yeah, that was interesting.
And you have to wonder too, like the people visiting the shrine and seeing the devotion of people there, how that affects them, even if they're not Catholic.
Yeah, when I was on the tour, I think really my friend and I were the only people that were devoted Catholics that already had known the story of Juan Diego and our little tour group. And one of the guys there, I don't think he was Catholic. I feel like he could have been Christian, like a non-Catholic Christian. I'm not really sure what his deal was, but he was very respectful. Like before we went in the church, there was a wedding going on. Oh yeah, the first time we visited, there was a wedding going on in
what a venue.
The cathedral, the new cathedral where the actual image was. And he asked the tour guide, like, oh my gosh, should we go in? There's like he wanted to be very respectful. And the tour guide was like, he said, he's like, we Mexicans, like, yeah, we can go in and go behind. I don't know what he was saying, but I don't know. But he seemed to be like very respectful, very respecting of it. But he turned to my friend and I, he was like, wow, I did not know, like, this is incredible. I did not know about this. Like, I did not know. I'd seen this image, but I had no idea that this is what it was connected to. So he seemed like very intrigued by it and very respectful of it. Some other people there were just kind of like, whatever, like, okay. It's a cool site.
Sure. Almost like touristy.
Yeah, very touristy. I mean, it was a touristy tour. But yeah, we're all there. Like Bridget and I, it's our first time. My friend Bridget went with me. Our first time seeing the image, and we're like, like this is one of the most meaningful experiences of our lives. And there's people like, oh, nice, okay. Which, yeah, they weren't Catholic. They wouldn't, yeah. But it was interesting to visit it with non-religious people the first time.
Yeah. I know you mentioned like just how significant it is to Mexican culture. Do you feel like this trip like helped you understand different aspects of Mexican culture differently, or just like expose you to different aspects of their culture that you appreciate now?
I think it really did. It was set in stone for me just how significant it is to all of Mexico, even if you're not Catholic. I think I didn't really realize that because our tour guide, he was not Catholic, but he was like, oh yeah, I love Our Lady of Guadalupe. Like everyone loves Our Lady of Guadalupe. I was like, okay, but what do you believe happened here? I don't know if he really had been like taught even like what it really, I don't know. Maybe he seemed pretty educated about it, so I don't want to assume he's not educated about it. But yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm not Catholic, but I love Our Lady of Guadalupe. I'm like, okay.
Like almost like viewing it as like a myth or something?
Maybe. I don't know. He really believes she appeared. So I was like, I don't know where you think she appeared from. Like it's always been a Catholic church was built.
Yeah. It
was to a Catholic bishop. So that I was very interested by, because it's very known that, and this happens with anything good, so I don't think it falsifies it being a legitimate apparition or being a good thing, but there's always people that have unhealthy devotions to it. That's for sure. And I do think that's like a part of it. I do think it's been embraced as like something in the culture, but not fully understood of like how it should be rightly viewed, because that clearly is disordered if they're viewing it as like, oh yeah, of course she appeared, but I'm not Catholic. Or I don't, but I'm not sure what his full beliefs were. I don't know. That was really interesting.
And not really something you see with other apparitions.
No, not at all. Actually, yeah, I'd say most people are not interested in at all unless they're Catholic. So that is something very interesting about that apparition. I think just because it happened at such a formative time in their culture, and it led to a much greater respect of what came to be the Mexican people. And so I think it's something I wasn't raised in a Mexican family, or, I don't know, it's something very significant. And that was also something really beautiful. There were a lot of news stories done that I saw on TikTok about the apparition site here in Illinois, and just people telling their stories of why they come and visit. They're like, oh, we asked like this. We're so thankful. We're coming to being thankful for a new life in America, or like immigrating from Mexico, or just some kind of intention they gave and why they make this long journey. And it's like kind of something I'm jealous of if they had such an early relationship with Our Lady of Guadalupe. But yeah, it's something very, very meaningful to them from like their earliest years. So I don't know. It's something I wish I could fully understand.
So now that this is your third apparition site that you've visited or done a pilgrimage to. Fifth. Look at that. No competition.
No competition, but...
What do you feel like your opinion has shifted or changed at all on pilgrimages? Like, would you recommend them? Do you think they're important to people's faith? How have they maybe personally affected you?
I think if you feel called to one, you definitely should. I don't think obviously they're necessary for your faith. Well, sure. I think they're very beautiful, especially if you can go with other people that are also love the apparition and can be surrounded by that. Every time I've visited one, especially Lourdes and Guadalupe, being surrounded by such a massive amount of people that also have a devotion to this, and maybe you get to know them or like learn their stories, or just viewing it, I think it strengthened my faith for sure, because community helps strengthen your faith in that way. And it to not just be people in your local community, but you're seeing people all over the world coming.
Yeah.
I know how much I've been touched, especially by Our Lady of Guadalupe's message to Juan Diego. Like, that really has touched me deeply, and that devotion to Our Lady of Guadalupe, but to see it in other people is always really beautiful. Yeah. And it makes me feel like, oh, it's not just me. I don't know. Sometimes you can feel like very alone in things. You're like, no one is getting how amazing this is. I don't understand. It's probably another reason I'm very drawn to Mexican culture. It's like, okay, these people get it. Like, I'm with them. Like, I think I was the only non-Mexican or non-Latina person I saw there. I was just surrounded by Latinos, and especially, I think, Mexicans. And I was like, these people get it. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's amazing to be surrounded by
a sense of camaraderie.
Yes. And people that also you can tell have been very touched by the same thing as you. And it's very special. So I definitely recommend it. You also learn so much about a different culture, especially in Mexico, because it's just so Mexican. You learn so much. Our Lady of Lourdes is also beautiful. Honestly, any of them, yeah, I think you learn a lot about history and about a different culture. So I would recommend it. I'm interested, do people ever make pilgrimages as Protestants anywhere? Is there anywhere that's like significant?
Typically it's the Holy Land.
Okay, well, yeah, that's another place I'd love to visit. That also would be incredibly meaningful.
I would say that is a significant one. I've also heard, I would say different locations in Europe. I know, like the catacombs, or like places where there's like martyrs of the faith, for sure. I've definitely heard. I had a professor at Moody that was like very important to him. Yeah, he visited tons of historical sites. And even like when I visited Greece, we went to Philippi.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We went to Corinth, like places like that where it's like, oh, these were like some of the very first churches. Like that Paul,
that's incredible.
His missionary journeys, like those kind of things. So I would say yes, for sure. It's maybe just slightly different because it's not like an apparition or something. So the stories behind them are different. But yeah, people definitely do that.
Yeah, I actually saw, I've seen some Catholic pilgrimages that will also go to Greece, and will go the places Paul went.
This is early church, so that's something we can all unite on.
Obviously, the Holy Land. I think I've loved all of these, but I think the Holy Land would be the most incredible pilgrimage to go where Jesus was baptized. I mean, that's like the dream that hopefully in some years we can all safely do. That would be the absolute dream.
Yeah, I had friends who they did the study abroad to Israel in school, and I remember talking to a friend about it, and she was just saying how there was like a moment as she was walking where she like looked down at the dirt, and she was like, it's crazy to think that like Jesus's feet were walking along this path, and it's not really something you can maybe fully grasp until you're there.
No, it's something we'll never experience unless you go there. That's the only known place he was, so
because I remember even in Greece when I was there, obviously like Philippi and Corinth, most of it's ruins, but even just walking among the rubble and having the tour guide explain like this is a partial wall of the church in Philippi, and just like touching the stones and being like, that's crazy that like this is where early Christians were meeting for some of the first churches. Just wild, and helps you feel connected to your faith, I think, in a deeper way, like remembering how far back this goes. Yeah. And how many Christians have gone before us and walked before us, and how faithful God is, I think is such like a very tangible reminder in those spaces.
Yeah, and to be able to touch and feel, I think that's something about pilgrimages, that you have this devotion to these things, or like obviously where Jesus was, or where these first churches were, to be able to actually touch and feel and experience those things. How could that not deepen your faith and your devotion and make you feel more connected to those things that you have faith in?
And just a reminder it's real.
Yes. I think that's, also about the apparitions. Like, I dreamed about going these places. I feel like they've deepened my faith, and to actually be there, like, oh my gosh, this is where I believe this happens, and I'm standing right here. Yeah. That's crazy.
Because I do think a lot of the times, we read, like, the Bible, we read story of early Christians, and it can start to feel like stories.
Distant. Yeah, I feel very distant from you. Yeah.
Beautiful stories, significant stories, but to then be there in person is such a reminder. Yes. This actually happened. There was a point in history where these people existed in this place, and God was doing these things.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely recommend going on a pilgrimage if you can. They can be pricey. I found ways to do them not very pricey, but I think they're worth it.
What would be your advice to someone who maybe specifically wants to go to this site or Mexico City in general?
Mm-hmm. Well, my first one is bring toilet paper.
Very practical.
I'm serious. Their bathrooms there, first of all, you have to have a peso, which I didn't, and some lovely man just put his peso in for me. I think it comes back out. Like you can, I actually don't know because I didn't put my own in.
It's like an Aldi cart.
Yeah. It's like an Aldi cart. I was like, thank you, God, that he, And then when I went in, you had to put a peso in for just a little bit of toilet paper. Wow. And thank God, this lovely woman who... Also, you really have to speak Spanish there. It's not like in Lourdes where everyone speaks English for you. No, you really have to, like, figure out... So I was doing my bad Spanish. Like, I'm learning Spanish, but not even close to being fluent at all, but was able to communicate at least some. But yeah, this woman who just had pity on me and put one in to get me a roll of toilet paper, which was not enough because it was very thin. I was like, hello, like to like really be thorough here.
I want to be clean.
Yeah, I want to be clean. So bring toilet paper and make sure you have a peso so you can get into the bathroom. First one, because I have not encountered that anywhere else. Also did not encounter that other places in Mexico. It was
just specifically at the site.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure there were other places there, but I was like, okay, first of all, Our Lady would not be happy with this. Anyway. Yeah, be prepared to have to speak Spanish. Go where you can have a lot of time to go. It would be nice if you can, like, get a local tour. If you go by yourself and get a local tour to bring you the first time to see it. Like, those are very inexpensive. You just hop on a bus with a bunch of you, meet somewhere and hop on a bus. And they'll bring you themselves. Or you could just take an Uber straight there. That's also safe. But yeah, plan to spend a whole day there. It does get very hot and there's no air conditioning. So be ready for that. And just that it is very crowded. Honestly, I think it's better to go on a weekday. It's less crowded than on a Sunday. It's also cool to go on a Sunday, though, just to see.
But maybe don't make that your only trip.
Yeah, don't make that your only time there, just to see how many people come, because it is very moving. And just be ready for the walkway that's in the front. And the gift shops are wild. Everything is crazy. Everything is very crowded. But it's beautiful. We can maybe insert some pictures here, but you can go up. There's like a hill you can climb and get to the top where there's another church. I don't know, it's like 6 or 7 churches there. It's crazy. And look out just over all of Mexico City. It's really beautiful. Yeah. So even if you're not Catholic, honestly, just going, it's just a beautiful sight to see. And it's free to get in. Just walk around. So yeah, I would recommend it if you're in Mexico City. I would also recommend Mexico City.
I've heard it's really beautiful there.
It is, yeah. Most museums in the world, in any city, are in Mexico City.
Wow.
Yeah, which are surprise people. And it's the home of the Caesar salad.
Reason enough.
So, just saying. Just saying.
Very cool. What apparition site do you think you'll go to next?
I don't think it will be an apparition site. I think I'm going to go to Rome, Italy, which have all, like, the catacombs. There's catacombs.
A very significant
Christian experience to go to Rome and to Italy in general. I think there are some, like, unofficial, like, apparitions that are in the middle category, which means they're not rejected, but they're not fully approved, so you can go visit. I think there might be some of those in Italy. But even if there aren't, there's tons of saints that have come out of Italy, so you can visit. This is where they lived. Yeah. This is where they did this. Like Assisi, I don't know. So I think I'm going to try to go with one of my priest friends to Italy next summer. So probably not a Marian apparition site, as of now. Unless God makes a way. Because sometimes he just makes it kind of apparent to me that this is what I'm doing next. So nice. The opportunity presents itself. If anyone wants to send me on a pilgrimage for free,
sponsor,
let me know. I do want to see Fatima at some point, but I'm honestly okay with that being later in my life. I'd rather see a lot of other places first. Yeah. I'd rather go back to some of the other apparition sites first, I'll be honest. So I would go back to Fatima or not Fatima, I'm sorry. I would go back to Lourdes any day, or Mexico City. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Well, let us know in the comments if this is somewhere you've visited. I'm just curious of other people's stories and experiences as well.
Yeah. Or if you'd want to, or if you're like, this is fake, let us know.
Fake news.
All right. I don't know what our next episode will be, but we won't be together.
Sadly.
Yeah. But we will try to be back.
Yes. Try to be a little more consistent. Yeah. Now that I'm not terribly pregnant and giving birth.
Yes. So we'll be back.
Yes.
But thanks for listening, and let us know what you want to hear next.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah.